Great. I love to do. Before we get started, folks, take a stab at our trivia question. Today asks in our trivia question, what is the largest county in size in the state of Iowa? And what is the smallest county by size in the state of Iowa? So I think a few people might have this one, but we'll see if we can see if I'll ask Christina and Theresa to check and see if it's in the chat or not. Theresa, what was your guess when you heard that trivia question? Did you have one?
Well, I was kind of being a smart aleck, but I thought maybe Lee County. They have two county seats.
Hmm, that's right. Two county seats. Well, I will. I'll have to say that we want to continue to get guesses, Theresa. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I think we should encourage people to continue to guess.
I understood.
Interesting enough, there was criteria for the size that a county had to be before it could get designation as a county in Iowa. And this county and a couple other counties, for the smallest ones, were so small they did not meet that initial criteria and had to get a special exemption. And I think there were 4 counties that were too small that needed that special exemption. So we'll see if anyone comes up with the correct answer in our chat before we get started.
Okay, I see some good guesses here. James says Humboldt. We have, how do you say this? Kossuth County for the biggest, smallest. So lots of good guesses. And Julia McGuire says Ida for the smallest. So,
okay.
So I am all set here with our recording and live stream, so you can get us started when you're ready.
Well, very good. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn, and we are so grateful to be joined today as our guest, Theresa Greenfield of Invest DSM. Thank you for being with us, Theresa.
Well, you're welcome. I'm just honored to have been invited to join you all and have a little conversation about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is housing and rural housing in particular.
Well, great. And no better time to have that conversation. The needs and challenges are and the opportunities are so great. I want to remind people about a couple of upcoming Iowa Farmers Union events. Right? We're really looking forward to gathering everyone at the Iowa Farmers Union for our annual state convention. That's going to be taking place December 5th and 6th in Ames, Iowa. We learn from each other and from a really great set of workshops and panels. We set the agenda for the organization by adopting the policy for the Iowa Farmers Union. And we elect leadership for the Iowa Farmers Union. We are looking forward to a great 2-day lineup. Check your email inbox soon for the invitation and all the registration information about the Iowa Farmers Union Annual Convention taking place December 5th and 6th in Ames. We also want to remind people in the chat, we have a link to the National Farmers Union Women's Conference, and it's taking place in Louisville this year. So we're really looking forward to that. We'd like to have a large and a strong Iowa delegation going to join people from around the country at the National Farmers Union Women's Conference taking place in Louisville. So let us know if you are interested in attending. We would love to help pass on all the good information and try to help delay some of the costs that go on with travel. So we are so grateful for these opportunities in the Iowa Farmers Union. And I want to remind people that one of the things we take a great amount of pride in is we try to inform our members about issues that are important to family farming, to sustainable agriculture, and to rural communities. And that's part of our effort here today, is to talk about that. And we love to have this conversation. We're going to have a great conversation with Theresa in just a moment. But if you have ideas that would be good for us to know about to conduct our lunch and learns on, please put your idea in the chat. We love to hear feedback on the effort. Before we go any further, the answer to our trivia question, right, Theresa? I almost forgot that. The largest county is indeed Kossuth County. The smallest county is Dickinson County. Dickinson County. So both in central northwest Iowa.
Good old Okoboji.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you for your guesses. And but in the meantime, let's jump into our topic for today. We are so grateful that Theresa Greenfield is joining us. She served as the Executive Director of Rural Development of USDA in Iowa and did so many outstanding things to help our rural communities build their infrastructure, build their capacity, and build all those services needed to have thriving rural communities in rural Iowa. We are so grateful for your service, Theresa. And we are very happy to hear about your work at Invest DSM as well, and to talk about rural housing in Iowa. So thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Aaron. I really appreciate the opportunity again to talk a little bit about housing. I put together a short slide presentation. I promise you it'll be short. I do want to leave time for conversation. And before I begin, I do want to invite any of your members, whether they're on today or whether they watch later or they follow up with you. I'm happy to be a resource to Iowa Farmers Union members, friends, family across the state. I grew up and have strong connections to rural communities, and housing is one of the number one questions I always get asked about. And it's a number one concern. So let's get started.
Well, very good.
All right, next slide.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. So, rural housing is more than just shelter, right? It's the foundation for our economy, our community vitality, our workforce. It's important for our community resilience. And without it, and many of you are living in areas that don't have enough housing, you know how hard it is to attract employers, recruit workers, what it does to our school tax base, families, the local economy. The fallout just keeps going and going and going. And many rural areas face aging housing stock and these limited supplies, and of course, affordability barriers. So all of these things come together and really can be challenges that we need to tackle together, or we're going to constrain our growth and restrict our quality of life. So there are a lot of tools out there. I'm not going to get into them all today. I'm going to give you a few that you can use to help build stronger housing community in your hometown, build economic development. So some of this I'm sure you already know, but I hope that you'll take away a couple new points today. This is the picture of what I consider an idyllic Iowa farm home. If I could have that farm on that house on my family farm, I would be thrilled. And maybe some of you live in a house like this, and maybe your family and friends live in a house like this. And maybe your town is filled with homes like this. But if you'd go to the next slide, this is a lot more what a lot of small towns look like. Homes that, have deferred maintenance, need care, are aging. And although I do love the solar panels on this one, I think that's pretty awesome. And most of this housing stock is obviously quite old. The folks that are living in our rural Iowa towns, most of them that are leaving are under 25 years of age. We have a lot of workforce age folks, 45 to maybe 64, who've also been leaving the rural areas and moving to larger metro areas. And the population that's remaining tends to be aging, and it is shrinking. And so their housing needs are very, very different than maybe what are needed in other areas in larger metropolitan areas on the coast, shall I say. One of the bright spots of housing across Iowa, of course, has been our new neighbors, our friends that are of different color and different race and different backgrounds. And they really have helped some communities avoid sizable population losses and have added population to communities. So welcoming new Iowans is an important part of solving our housing crisis and stabilizing our rural communities. The lesson to probably learn that I take away from a photo like this is that our current rural housing stock, which maybe was built in the 50s, maybe built in the 30s, it's not going to fix itself. And if it looks like this today, it's going to look even worse in 10 years. And so now is the time to start thinking about how you can make a difference in the housing stock in your rural community. Next slide. So key challenges that are often cited, one, as I travel the state and have for many years, it truly is the number one or two concern that people tell me, whether it's in the coffee shops, in the hospitals that I visit, whether it's our public servants in the schools. It is a barrier to growth in our rural communities. The cost of new construction, those prices are unaffordable for most people, and certainly our middle income and lower income families. Oftentimes there's very little housing available in some communities. They just don't have extra houses. They're all full. They may be old, they may be in poor condition, they may be new, but there aren't any other homes. So that prevents their communities from growing. Rental housing for our elderly folks oftentimes are lacking too, or under-resourced within our small rural communities. Now, my 87-year-old dad still lives on the farm where I grew up. And he has told me this many times. He says, you know, Trixie, he calls me Trix, there's very few options between the farm and the grave. And his concern is there's really not a place for him to go, and not a place that's not 45 minutes away and takes him out of his community. And so that is a reality that I think many of our farming families are dealing with, is their parents and grandparents want to stay in the community where they've lived and worked their whole lives. So we need to work on building a continuum of housing across rural Iowa. So the facts are, and I think the state of Iowa had just finished up our recent housing study, and they are expecting that we will need over 21,000 new homes to meet the demands of housing demands for our economy and for it to grow across Iowa. And that's a lot of houses when you think about how many new houses might be starting in your hometown. So we've got a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of organizations working on this topic because capacity is also one of the challenges for rural communities. They don't have full-time staff. They don't have part-time staff. They don't have enough of a team to really solve these problems, and they rely on partner organizations. So if you haven't reached out to the Iowa Economic Development Authority, to the Iowa Rural Development Council, even the Iowa Business Council is now doing research on housing because it has become such a critical issue for the success of our rural neighbors and communities. So next slide. I got to get mine to go to the next slide. Hold on here. There it is. Okay, I know. One way that we can work on housing, and you saw my initial picture, is rehabilitation and preservation. I've talked about those aging homes that were built in the 50s or earlier. Iowa, I believe, is ranked, I think our housing stock is ranked like the 8th oldest in the nation. Wow. So that just sets a benchmark for a lot of the work that we have to do. The trouble with these aging homes is what I call the market gap. And every city administrator out there will tell you about it, which means a lot of these older homes need so much repair that the cost of repairs exceeds the appraisal value for after the repairs. So if you buy a $100,000 home and need to put $100,000 into it in a small town, in some towns, and then you go to the bank to get the loan to pay for those repairs, your appraisal might only come in at $250,000. And so you'll have to come to the table with at least $50,000 in cash and probably more to be able to make those improvements. So declining home values paired with a market gap, paired with a lot of renovation needs, and really lend itself to we've got a problem that we need to tackle related to the rehabilitation and preservation. There's some folks out there that you can reach out to that will be helpful though. USDA has what they call their 504 program. They'll do $10,000 grants to help seniors in particular make improvements to their homes, bathrooms, ramps, um, windows, siding, gutters, sidewalks, all kinds of health and safety related issues. This picture is a Habitat for Humanity investment. I think it was in Dunkerton. I believe is where I got these pictures. Again, they have resources that can help folks with some of their repairs so that our neighbors can stay in their homes. Next slide.
Mhm.
Going down. Okay. The other thing that we need in rural areas is new construction. There are a lot of communities, maybe they're close to some manufacturing and jobs, maybe some close to some economic drivers or regional centers, and they don't have enough new construction. Here in Iowa, it's tough out in the rural areas. It takes capital, it takes lot development, it takes infrastructure like roads and sewer and utilities. It takes the trades. We have to have talented folks who can build homes and do that work. It takes compliance with city and county ordinances, which sometimes can be barriers too to housing. There's another shortage of housing in Iowa, and that is certainly for our folks who need affordable housing, but it's also for our middle income folks, folks that are professionals, they're teachers, they're lawyers, they're doctors. Some of those professions that we see maybe missing within our local economy, it's hard to attract them to your community if they don't have the kind of housing they can get, maybe living in a larger community. And when they aren't willing to move to the community, then the community doesn't have those services, whether it's a dentist. I know there's lawyers are a shortage out in many rural communities. So this middle income homeowner is also an important part of our housing continuum that we need to work on growing in our rural communities. I've got two ideas for you there.
Mhm.
One, a private home builder named Origin Homes. It's a subsidiary of Hubble Homes, has been working across rural communities. I believe they are now doing some new construction in all 99 counties. And they've built this home building division really to address building within rural communities, not big urban communities. So check them out online, Origin Homes. And then if you haven't heard from them, take a minute to look at Homes for Iowa. Homes for Iowa is a new construction home. It is a partnership between the Iowa prison industries and the state, and where folks who are working through their term in the prison are learning construction trades, and they're building these homes on site. They're learning about working, gaining skills for after they've served, but they're also filling a niche to help us bring new homes, solid homes, to our rural communities. So I believe this is a modular home built by Homes for Iowa that was put in Jefferson. I think it was the very first home they located. And I believe they've done probably around 150 homes now across Iowa. So it's a great opportunity to bring some homes to your community and do some good work helping folks with their recidivism. All right, next. Yeah, Aaron, did you know about that?
No, that's such a great program.
It is. It's remarkable. All right, next up, opportunities for Iowa Farmers Union. I just want to take a moment to just let you know that there's so many ways that you as Farmers Union members to get involved. You can't do anything about the mortgage rates. You can't do anything about somebody's credit score, but there are many ways that you can get involved to help solve the housing crisis if there is one in your community. Advocate, push for rural housing. Ask your county supervisors or city council members, your state legislators, but even the local folks, ask them to think of rural housing as infrastructure. It's just as important as sewer and water and a grocery store and our schools. It's infrastructure that's needed for strong and healthy communities. Be innovative. Think of starting a housing cooperative like you have a farmer elevator cooperative. Maybe you build a cooperative that its focus is to make sure that our parents, like my 87-year-old dad, has a place to transition to off the farm into town, which he would like to do, but doesn't have that kind of facility. And maybe it's owned by a cooperative. You work with your telecoms, your RECs, and your farmer cooperatives to see if you can build that kind of housing. And then make sure that you're always linking the housing needs of your community to your farm success, whether it's farm workers, whether it's your children joining you in the business, whether it's your family, whether it's the teachers that are teaching your school kids in town. Link housing in your conversations to your farm success. And that will help put it in the context that really makes it relevant to your bottom line. I like to think that farmers are always worried about their value per acre, right? How much your revenue is per acre. Well, think about the value as it relates to housing too, as you are talking in your community and taking those leadership roles. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to just give you a little call to action by telling you what we are doing here in Des Moines, because Des Moines' housing issues aren't that different from rural communities. It's an older housing stock, housing that was built post-war, housing that has a lot of repair needs, and housing in many, many neighborhoods where the values are declining. We have that market gap problem. And so the city stepped forward in a collaboration with the county and is making investments grants to homeowners in special investment districts, some of those neighborhoods that are middle income neighborhoods that really need to bring up the value of these homes and make these repairs so that, one, buyers are choosing Des Moines because they can find housing stock that they enjoy and living close to the amenities that they would like in the city. And two, raising the property values. And so it's a way, this Invest Des Moines, to ensure that we are being collaborative across the whole housing spectrum, but we are focused on our middle income neighbors. And I do think there's some lessons there for all of our rural communities to build some partnerships to make investments in housing in your rural communities. So, Aaron, that's just a high level overview. I wanted to give you guys just a couple resources that you might find helpful. And then I just want to open it up for questions and conversation and know how I can be helpful to the folks that are on today's call.
Well, and that's it. That's been fantastic, Theresa. Thank you so much. This is so many great resources for folks. We'll try to advance through our conversation. I know we'll have more questions than we have time for today, but this is just the start of many, many conversations that we will have about it. So, how does this all fit together? Many towns don't necessarily have options for older folks who don't have a large house, large yard. And how does that work when they're trying to transition to the next stage of housing needs as we move through?
Yeah, Aaron, you're absolutely right. That we can. Let me start over. The state of Iowa has been making investments in housing readiness assessments. And I would say that's a great first place for every community to start. They are giving grants to communities to do these housing assessments. And the goal is that you will learn what your community needs and what it doesn't need. It's kind of like a chessboard of housing and how that fits into your community and maybe even your region. Right. And it covers a continuum from first-time home buyers to caring for our seniors and everything in between. And that is really, I recommend communities start there so they can understand what they do have and really take some data with them to then begin to invest in what they do need, whether that's renovation or preservation or new construction for particular income, particular household sizes, and to meet the needs of the community.
Yeah, we had someone asking about what they've been hearing from builders that find it more difficult to obtain financing for housing projects in rural Iowa. Is this a common concern that you're hearing a lot of as well?
Well, it is, and I think and folks are also feeling the pressure of interest rates, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, I think when I talk to builders, probably their biggest concern is finding trades. And so
Mm,
one of the slides I think I had up, maybe I didn't point out the picture, was the Meskwaki settlement, the Sac Indian tribe. They have started an apprentice program that's tied into their public works department to
mm.
teach the trades to their members in a way of encouraging them to stay within the settlement and then offer those trades throughout their community because the trades are missing. Maybe your hometown public works department could offer an apprenticeship program and teach folks some of those skills, whether it's for home building, whether it's for the care of infrastructure, whether it's welding. There's so many skills that we need in our rural communities. But I thought that was a unique program. But builders are talking about the needs for trades in the rural areas. And I think their challenge is when they get too far away from those access to that labor force, they're unable to build a house on time and on schedule and under budget.
Yeah. Well, you've highlighted really well the challenges we're facing in Iowa, but there's a lot of innovation going on, and highlighting that and talking about those opportunities is important. What makes you most optimistic moving ahead as we deal with these challenges of housing in Iowa?
The people.
Yeah.
Every community that I have visited where they have been successful or are successfully moving down that path to solutions, it starts with leadership. And
Mm,
that's why I'm really excited about joining you guys today because you are leaders in your community, you care, and you're willing to put in the elbow grease to assist and lead your communities. When you do that and you bring with it your creativity and your partnership with other organizations, whether they're foundations, state government, nonprofits like Invest DSM, for business partners like builders or our unions with trades, you'll find those solutions. And so I would say it really does start with being a leader in your hometown.
well, great. Well, that's a wonderful way for us to transition to the further conversations in the future about this. But we've had a great time talking with you about housing issues in Iowa, housing challenges and opportunities. Thank you so much for joining us, Theresa. Thank you for your service to the state and this ongoing effort. We know we'll be able to build off today's conversation into a lot more in the future.
Well, thank you very much. And hey, guys, thanks. I see there's a lot of great comments in the chat. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you'd like. I'm always happy to visit with folks from the Farmers Union and, of course, neighbors around the state, particularly when it comes to talking about housing. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you so much, Theresa. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks you, everyone. This has been the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn series. It's our effort to bring to our members and to the general public issues important to family farming and to rural communities. And we only do it by working together. We can elevate the voices, elevate those conversations, elevate those relationships and experiences to make a real difference and to take action to make a real difference. If you haven't had a chance to join the Iowa Farmers Union, please do so today. If you haven't had a chance to become a supporter of the Iowa Farmers, please do so today. And mark your calendar. The Iowa Farmers Union Convention is taking place December 5th and 6th in Ames. Watch your inbox and put it on your calendar. We'll look forward to seeing everyone there. And Christina, is there anything else we need to bring up today? I think we've highlighted a number of great things, and thank you for all your work to bring this effort to our members and to the public.
And thanks for all you do, Aaron. Everybody, you should see convention registration things starting the end of next week. So we're so excited to get that out to you all.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you, Christina.
Bye.